a brand identity, which is something you don't see in the small business arena too often. It's a conceptual idea. It's a summary of a business that is, between 3 and 8 words.
Welcome to Biz Stories Shared, where storytellers share their inspiration, motivation, some disappointments, and how they applied the lessons that led them to success. Stories are gifts. Listen as these gifts are shared. Now, here is your host, Charlotte Plott.
Hello, storytellers. This is Charlotte Plott, and I'm thrilled to bring you our guest today, Hillary Scott. Hillary, are you ready to be a storyteller?
Oh, yes.
Oh, good. Hillary is a small business marketing and branding expert with a passion for using her talents to support entrepreneurs who are living out a deep and serious commitment to improving the lives of others. Hillary, I've given our listeners just a little summary about you. So will you take a minute and tell us more about you personally, because we really want to get to know you better, and then give us an overview of your business.
Sure. So I'm Hillary, and I am a very passionate person. I think that's probably the most biggest thing about me that you should know. And that passion is in discovering the world. So on a personal, note, what I love to do is go out there and see nature and bugs. I find bugs fascinating, which is a little weird. But I just look at the beauty that's in the world around us, and I'm astounded by it. And I love being in it and knowing that I'm one of those creatures. So I spend a lot of time studying that stuff, but I also love to read and do photography. And I have a very loving significant other and a couple of furry friends, and so I love to spend time with them. On my business, when I was young, I always felt like business was important to me, and I felt very driven to do something important with it. And over the years, as I got wiser and more mature, I came to understand that I really wanted to positively impact the world. I wanted to make a difference on an everyday level. And so I've built the business so that I can provide marketing and branding support to the people who are just as passionate as me about improving the lives of others. Because at the end of the day, I think there's two things in life that are truly fulfilling. It's having people that you love and those that love you back. And then it's having a career serving others that makes you feel fulfilled. And so my business is all about that. It's about that for me. It's about creating that for me. It's about helping others create that, and about helping people to really enjoy and feel fulfilled in life. So there's layers to my business. It's not just providing a service. And I do this through marketing and branding, which is a little different because you don't necessarily expect your marketing and branding person to help you feel happier in life. But that is part of how I roll. So.
Oh, I like that. That was a very good explanation, and it really does give us a little flavor of the passion that you have for helping others and how you like to live your life. So thank you for that. Thank
Sure.
you. Well, here at Biz Stories Shared, we start every show with our guest's favorite quote. So, Hillary, what's your favorite quote, and how do you apply this to your everyday thinking?
Sure, it's a great question. So I have an amazing client named Tara Mahuda, who earlier this year sent me a card with her payment. And in that card was this wonderful quote that became the inspiration for this year. And this is what it is. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is far more important. And for me, that's my mantra, because being an entrepreneur means living in risk. And in my particular situation, it means living in even more risk, seeing that I've put our entire family's finances on the shoulders of a business that doesn't guarantee us,
Mm-hmm.
a monthly livelihood. So it's been this quote has been a daily source of inspiration, knowing that for me, the risk I'm taking is because I feel what I'm doing is far more important than the fear of that risk.
Wow, well, that's very powerful. Do you have a suggestion of how the storyteller listeners can apply this mantra to their journey?
Yeah, I meet a lot of entrepreneurs who say, you must think I'm crazy because I want to dot dot dot. And everybody's dot 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 is different.
Mm-hmm.
It's, some some have no money and their families are pressuring them to get a job, but their heart is calling them to do something that's powerful and important in the lives of others. And so I'm frequently using this quote to share with them that yes, in a traditional sense, risk is something that we are taught to be adverse to. But if we feel or have that there's something more important, that judgment that something is more important, it's okay to look at that and say it's more important, I'm going to risk it, and walk out in that courage and faith. Gosh, even I have a dear, dear friend who owns a business, and for him, the courage was being willing to downsize his business and walk a new direction because his heart was calling him that way, even though it was frightening and scary. So again, that ability to look at the big picture and make the judgment that something of an intrinsic value is more important, and walk out in that risk and fear. I mean, that is to me the ultimate application, and we use it over and over again too. Should I, as an entrepreneur, spend my $1,000, that's all we've got in the bank, on fixing the car with the faith that the next paycheck is going to come in through the next client showing up? I mean, that's an everyday application of
Right.
it. It's very diverse.
Oh, that was a very, very good explanation of it. So, you, Hillary, have shared the many facets of your life being in business, teaching, and helping others. Along the way, you probably have had some failures. As entrepreneurs, we have to have an internal armor so we know that when we take action, it's okay to fail, just like your quote said, but not getting up is where the real failure is, isn't it?
Yes.
So now I want to ask you to tell us one of the times you just didn't get the results that you set out to achieve. Would you tell us that story and the lesson that you learned?
Sure. That story is actually from this year. So I'm in my fifth year of business now, but that is from this year. And I went through this time in my life where I was looking for the fast track to success. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think we all do this. Oh, if only I do this, if only I do this, then I'll make that money real quick and all the headaches in my life will go away. And what I had done was gotten involved with a group of people who put me on a pedestal. And it
Wow.
was horrible. I can tell you, like, you think that being somebody and having a following would make your business, but in what I learned by falling flat on my face after these people were just not the right people to serve. They were exhausting, they were demanding, their people were criticizing and then loving you and criticizing. Like, this stuff was bad, and I fell flat on my face, and
Oh,
my business as a result went with me.
oh
For
no.
lack of a better word. But, the thing is, it taught me that for my business, self adulation or people saying that I'm amazing, it doesn't mean anything. What means something is watching the clients' lives improve, the clients' happiness levels improve, and seeing their success. Like, at the end of the day, what that situation did for me, in that big humongous failure, is it ripped out the piece of my business that was wrong, and it
Wow.
forced me to look at what was really important, which was serving other people. That for me was the gem. So it was really stinky. It's really awful. But at the end of the day, it was also one of the most beautiful transformations. And with each failure, as I look back on the business, each one could turn into that beautiful transformation if I learned and let myself have that, instead of reflecting on what I couldn't do. Looking data, I call it data, and actually coach entrepreneurs in this. It's data, looking at the data instead of labeling it failure or success. It's data. Here's what's working, here's what's not. It detoxifies the situation when you look at it that way, and you just take the pieces out that don't work, which we call failure, and move on with the pieces that do work, which we call success.
That's very wise. You've got a lot of wisdom for such a young lady as that. I like that data. It's just data. It's not a failure or a success. It's just data, and it depends on how we look at it, and we take out the awful data.
Yeah, yeah. I think too, it's as an entrepreneur, you have to get okay with feeling bad and being willing to move through that. I think that's an essential component. And that's, I think, how a lot of entrepreneurs grow through the failures is if you allow yourself to say, okay, I feel crummy, this really stunk, and yes, have your pity party, eat the ice cream, but then 2 hours later, get off your rear end
Hmm.
and start looking at the data and move forward. I mean, it's a blend.
Putting the title of data on it really takes away the personal aspect of it, doesn't it? So that you can look at it with open eyes and a realistic attitude instead
Yeah,
of impersonating. That isn't the word I want. Taking it inside of you.
right.
What's the word I want there?
Personalizing.
Yeah, personalizing. Yeah,
Yeah.
very good. I like that. Data. It's just data. Well,
I mean, it is. I mean, we as entrepreneurs create data. We find out what works and what doesn't, you know?
right, right. Well, thank you for sharing that story. Sometimes it's hard to relive those moments, but if we just look at it as data, then it's not going to be near as hard. And it helps us to remember that we did learn lessons, and the lessons help us to move forward, don't they?
They do. They do.
Well, what I'd like to do now, Hillary, is to go to the other end of the spectrum, and let's talk about the time in your journey when you had an aha moment, when you became aware of the new path that you wanted to travel. Take us to that moment when you had that light bulb go off and through the steps that you took to turn that idea into success.
Sure. So the failure and the aha moment were back to back. So, I had that big failure and I realized it's about the client, it's about the client. Well, so when I started to loosen myself up and look for even on like a more deep level, what does the client need from me? Surprisingly, I found that breaking away from traditional business recommendations of systematizing and making everything super efficient actually was the aha moment. If I just show up and serve my client the way that they need me to be there, pivoting to whatever it is they need from me, I found more success in that in every way, financially, emotionally, and in their experience. So now when I have a client, I get to know them really well, and I learn what their communication style is. I learn if they want emotional support, if they don't. I learn if they're colorful, if they like colors, if they understand graphics. I really spend the time to understand them. And then when I'm working with them, I tailor my approach to their personality. And it might sound like that's not a scalable business in the traditional business world, but I've figured out how to scale it and to train others to do the same. And it's joyful, I think, for us to, it's joyful for me to be able to sit across from someone and just make them everything, to make them the focus of my attention and tailor to them, to bless and honor them in that way, because I feel like it's a lost art in our world. And I want to see that come back. The
Wow.
art of loving others, even just through marketing and branding. It's just like, again, very, very odd combination, but it's joyful. I mean, the smiles, when the aha moment is when the person smiles and every freaking part of them is smiling because they feel loved, they feel honored, they feel excited because they see their business in a new light, because they see the heart of their business come out with colors on the page, and the process of getting there was really delightful for them.
Well, you really do paint a beautiful picture about what you can do for your clients because I can see the importance of them understanding that it's not just a logo that you've created, it's a part of them. And if they feel joyful when they look at it, then they know that their clients also are going to get that same feeling from just looking at colors and lines, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, you really have taken your life experiences and helped us to take the lessons learned and apply them to other facets of our life and business. And I believe, and I know you do too, that the entrepreneurs are the movers and shakers in
Hmm.
our economy.
Yep.
Well, Hillary, I'm going to ask you to bring us to the present moment and to share your proudest entrepreneurial moment.
There's so many that's so hard, but I have this one story I love to tell, and it's definitely a very proud moment. Um, I have a client who is very vivacious and loving and giving, and she was the very first person that I experienced this ability to create on a level I've never created before.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was very proud. So I had taken her through the process of developing her brand and understanding her. And as I was working with her, I kept seeing visuals in my mind, which is really normal for me. I'm extremely imaginative. I see faces on buildings and bugs when they're not and that kind of stuff. But so I'm in this meeting with her and I'm seeing stuff and I'm seeing this lion in my head and I thought, okay, that's significant. I'm going to take that to the paper. So fast forward a couple of weeks and we send over some logos to her and there was one on there of a lioness and she calls me within a half hour and takes me through this really long story. But the gist of the whole thing is that the lioness that we created looked almost identical to the lioness that was on her bathroom wall and the
Oh,
lioness that was the inspiration for her life and her business and her career. And I had no idea.
oh
And
my.
so getting that connected with someone, and then now as I've continued on my journey, replicating that type of connection with people where I send over something and they're just like completely overjoyed. I don't know how to describe it fully. Maybe a spirituality thing. That is my proudest moment, to be able to serve on that level.
Wow, that would be so exciting to have a client call back with a reaction like that. You must have just been beyond words.
Oh, it was incredible. It was, I mean, yes, it was just really incredible.
Well, good for you. That what a
Sure.
talent you do have. Hillary, your expertise and dedication certainly helps your clients, and I'm hearing that it's more than expertise and dedication. You really have an intuitive power too. And people love to hear stories like yours and how you are growing and making your business a success. So tell us one thing that is really exciting you in your business right now.
Sure. So I feel like money shouldn't be a barrier for a person to be able to work with me, in essence.
Okay.
And obviously, I have to keep a roof over our head. So the exciting thing in my business right now is that I'm working on writing an entrepreneurial survival guide for the passion driven. And it's everything that I know and have learned as a business owner that is very passionate in how to do things. So it has logistics. It has emotional advice. It has everything that I know on the whole spectrum,
Right.
data to how do you serve your clients in order to empower people so that they can have the same level of advice and care that I would give my client without having to
Wow.
pay. So it's a work in progress.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. And so then, will you have that be a book that you'll publish and it be on Amazon rather than a ebook? Or it might be an ebook,
Yeah,
but
that's a great question. I envision it being an ebook initially.
okay.
But as far as turning it into a paperback book, I guess I'm open to whatever
Maybe.
happens depending
Yeah.
on how popular it is.
Right. Oh, good. That has to be so exciting. And
Oh
then
yeah,
just have that much background that you have and you have all of the successes to put into that book. That'll be a big help. And that will help you get more clients then too, won't
yes,
it? Good.
yes, that is a good thing.
That's very smart.
Thank you.
Well, Hillary, what is the best business advice that you ever received?
This would come from my father,
Ah,
who is an entrepreneur himself. In fact, I'm in a family of six people, and of the six, four of us are entrepreneurs, which is
wow.
kind of cool. It runs in the blood. But my father's advice to me is don't overthink it.
Really?
Something that I tend to do, being just a very empathetic person and also deeply philosophical. He pulls me out and says, "Don't overthink it. Does it work? Yes or no? Is it good? Yes or no?" So that's the best business advice that I've ever been given. And in fact, I would give to others frequently. Clients will ramble on for a half hour of something they're troubled about, and I'll just let them clear it, and then I'll say, "I think you're overthinking it. Let's back
Oh,
up."
right. Oh, well, that is very good advice. And sometimes then you just keep going in circles and circles and don't get anywhere and end up getting discouraged and throwing the whole thing away.
Yeah.
I like that advice. Well, Hillary, now I'm going to ask you to share some specific ways that show how you achieve becoming such a successful entrepreneur. Does that sound like a plan?
Sure, sure.
Okay. Well, what is the vision of the future of your business?
My vision is to grow my business beyond me, to bring people into my business that have the same desire to serve others and a skill set that I can shape and mold so that it grows and over time, be able to empower ultimately the community of business owners that are seeking to improve other people's lives. If I could have one thing in this life, it'd be when I look back from my deathbed, it's that there's a community of businesses that have grown and become stabilized. They've managed to stay past the 5 years, the 10, the 15, 20-year mark, and they're out there genuinely moving our world into positive directions where people are really loved and edified. That's the vision. I mean, that's what I want. That's what I'm out to do, which is why I work with that community specifically, because most of the time they're the most underserved.
Sure.
Yeah.
And is 5 years a good benchmark for a business? If you've made it 5 years, then you're probably
Yeah, statistically speaking, if you can make it through the second year, in my opinion, you stand a chance. If you can make it to the fifth year, most likely you've figured out how to survive financially with the business, and so you'll be able to continue growing it. Um, and then most companies in the 5 to 12 year range experience some sort of backward growth. And if they can get the right person in there at the right time and stop that, then they'll continue to larger. As with
oh,
all businesses, you can only grow to a certain point before you go backwards. So over the years, a business will go up and down and up and down. But if it has really good, smart systems, and good branding and all the different components, it will ride the wave in essence.
well, I didn't know that. 5 years, huh? Okay, I'm heading for 5 years.
I love it.
Well, Hillary, can you share one of your personal habits that you strongly believe contributes to your success?
Sure. I work smarter, not harder.
Okay.
We hear this a lot. My first couple of years of business, I ran around like a crazy woman with my head cut off, 80-hour weeks. And then somewhere along the way, I realized I could do a quarter of the work and get the same results.
Really?
So yes, I am very, very strategic in who I meet with, where I put my time, how much time I allocate for project work. I have strong priorities. So essentially, the advice would be know what brings growth to the business and make those the priority. So for most companies, that would be sales and prospecting, maintaining relationships with people in the community that are key influencers or that you really just resonate with.
Right.
Um, take really good care of your clients and take really good care of yourself.
Those are really wise words, and I think that taking really good care of yourself is such a priority, and so often it it comes last because we're excited and we feel obligated and we want to be nice and
Right.
so that I'm glad that you included that is because it is. The others are kind of knowns.
Yeah, they are. Having, and this is why I work from the brand perspective, but having a brand identity, which is something you don't see in the small business arena too often. It's a conceptual idea. It's a summary of a business that is, between 3 and 8 words. But having that creates the strategy because if you know what your business is about and you know what you want to do with the business,
Hmm.
you can measure and gauge every decision against that. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I work with this client? Should I work with that client? It allows strategy to be injected into every facet of the company so that it grows quicker and is stable longer. And it's incredible. It's surprising that and no one does this in the small business community. I have no competition when it comes to the conceptual brand development, and I think it's a really smart tool to have.
I believe it. It sounds like a smart tool to have. I want the tool.
Okay. I love it.
All right. Well, Hillary, do you have an internet resource which helps your efficiency to share with our listeners, like a Evernote or an app that you like?
So I am a diehard Google girl,
Okay.
and I actually am a diehard Google Apps fan for business. It's really genius. It's created great for small business owners. You can have your Gmail, your email, you can have your documents, you can have your calendar. Everything is in one place. But the documents are pretty darn awesome. You can have an entire arsenal of what would be like a Word doc, only it's online, and you can share it with other people. That allows me to stay super efficient. Folders and everything. I can write proposals and share them with people. They even have a document signing. So if you have
Oh,
contracts, you can share that. it with people and they can sign online, making it super easy. The other thing that I love is FreshBooks, which is an invoicing system complete with a section for expenses where you can upload your receipts and have everything easily printed out for the accountant at the end of the year.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah,
those
really
those do
great.
sound good. I didn't realize that Google had all of those
Mhm.
little benefits for us.
Well, even better, the Google apps for one email address is only $5 a month, and the FreshBooks is only $30, and they're really robust.
Mm-hmm.
Between the two, you really have everything that you need as a small business owner in the first couple of years.
Great. Well, that's very good information. Thank you.
Sure.
And storytellers, you will find the links to these sites in the show notes of today's episode at bizstoriesshared.com. Hillary Scott. Well, now, Hillary, would you describe for us a perfect referral for your business?
Sure. So a perfect referral is it's pretty simple. It's a person who has a very deep passion for improving the lives of others. And it doesn't have to be a particular industry. You can be a plumber, you could be a mechanic, you can be a corporate officer of any sort. But if your personal mantra is to improve the lives of others and you need marketing and branding support, I want to work with you.
Okay. All right. Well, that's pretty succinct.
Yep.
That's good. Well, if you could recommend just one book to our listeners, what would it be?
That is such a hard question for me.
Mhm.
I think it might be my book, but,
Okay.
but my book's not out yet, so that's not very fair. I think there is a book out there called Boundaries. And I think every small business owner should read this book because oftentimes we cross our own boundaries in an effort to make money. And that's one of the hardest lessons to learn as an entrepreneur is when you sacrifice who you are as a person to gain money, it's a bad path. So I think that book would be a good read for pretty much everyone who's going to have the role of business owner so they can learn to set super good boundaries that protect both parties.
Well, the fact that it protects both parties really is a viable uh, reason to read a book like that. And like we were talking about earlier, for our own mental and physical health, we have to have those boundaries, don't we?
Right.
Good. All right. That sounds like a very good one. Do you know the author?
I don't, but I
That's
can
okay.
find out.
That's
Yeah,
all
I
right.
can find
No,
out.
I'll just put it in there, and we've got talented people. They'll look it up and find it. All
Very
right.
good.
Well, Hillary, I have truly enjoyed listening to your journey and the stories that you've shared. So, will you please share one more time how we can get in touch with you and any other resources that you want us to have, and then we'll say goodbye.
Sure. So the best way to reach me is going to be email, which would be Hillary with two L's at passiondriven.me. But I would first recommend taking a tour of my website to get to know me on a pretty deep level at
Ooh,
passiondriven.me.
oh, good. I'm going to look at that too. I didn't think to look at that before. Well, Hillary, thank you for being so generous with your time, expertise, and experiences. You really shared a lot on a deep level, I feel, and it really does help us all get to know you better. So I can see why your clients love you.
Thank you.
Listeners, you can find the links to this resource and everything that we've been chatting about in today's episode by going to bizstorieshared.com/Hillary Scott. All right, Hillary, thank you so much, and we'll be in touch. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Give the storyteller some love. Go to bizstorieshared.com, click on the iTunes button, and give a 5-star review. Thanks.